your third place New York Yankees. I want to give something positive here before I discuss Aaron Boone, because I thought he had a huge role today. I'll give you that sneak peek. Cam Schlittler, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. So Cam Schlittler looked good today. I thought his curveball looked great. You could see he was making adjustments. All that was really good. Eventually they bridge it over to Jake Bird, who looked good, right? It's nice to see that. So at least Jake's dad gets to relax for another day after having watched that performance. Weaver looked good. Tim Hill, all of it looked fine, right? Pitching wasn't an issue today. Now, the issue was you get shut down by Yuri Perez, a pretty solid pitcher in the game. I mean, he's not Paul Skeens, but he's a good arm, right? Completely shut down. The Yankees had 2 hits total. Agustin Ramirez, a player that the Yankees traded away, and I'm not telling you guys we shouldn't have traded him. He's essentially a designated hitter who's choosing to catch. He's really Gary Sanchez, hitting .225 with pop, and he hit 2 home runs today. That's it. For those of you who missed the game, that's what you missed. And I want to just give you guys full context. Stanton and Rice had those 2 knocks. And Jazz Chisholm, and this is where it gets juicy. Jazz Chisholm finds a way to get doubled off on a pop-up in the infield. Aaron Boone decides, I need to hold my first base coach accountable and yell at him. Jake, I don't know what your first base coach is supposed to do for you as a base runner. Is he supposed to hold your hand and teach you the rules of the game around the base pass? Or is he supposed to be somebody that aids you, right? Sees things that maybe you don't see. And I'll tell you right now, you don't need good coaching to get back to first base on a pop-up to second base. You just don't need it. Matter of fact, I would argue you don't need a first base coach at all to get back to first base on that play. And mind you, when the play was over and you saw Aaron Boone yelling at our first base coach, ridiculous, of course. But when you see that, you have to know, oh, no wonder these players don't learn from these mistakes. Why would they? Why would you learn from a mistake if you can show up 2 hours late to work and your boss says, oh, were you stuck in traffic? No big deal. Well, guess what? Nothing happened, so why would you show up on time tomorrow? Why would you? It's up to you now. And so every time, Jake, we talk about accountability. We talk about, okay, you can make a mistake, you're a human being, but when you show up to the yard tomorrow, it better look different. And I'll tell you right now, when people talk about, oh, Jazz is just a dumb baseball player. Oh, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, they don't know the outs. These are just stupid baseball players. There's nobody to hold them accountable. Apparently, and I saw Apex message me earlier today on Twitter, and he said it seems like people are afraid. Afraid to tell these players, that's a joke, get off the field. Aaron Boone is a peer to these players. And to prove it, Jazz Chisholm played after that. After that moment, where he had no idea what he was doing on the baseball field, he didn't worry at all for his job. Matter of fact, look at his demeanor. Jake, when you watch other players on other teams play for Houston, the Dodgers, right? Teams that expect to do something when it matters, if they made the same play, they'd be right down in the locker room. That's where they would be. And yet, for the Yankees, it's just something we have to deal with in the short term, and then you're going to see Jazz tomorrow, unfortunately. He doesn't deserve to play. We don't have a manager that will hold him accountable, unfortunately. They're just going to chalk it up to between his ears or the coach. And so, very disappointing. It's sad, and it's disheartening as a fan of this team because you know, are they going to learn? Are they not? You know they're not. It's going to be the same thing tomorrow and the day after. So something has to change, and obviously I think we all know what that something is.
Yeah, I think tomorrow I would actually play Volpe at second and Caballero at shortstop.
Thank you.
That's what I would do.
And do you remember, by the way, what we were essentially saying earlier in the year? We watched a player in Austin Wells not know how many outs there were. We also saw Jason Dominguez forget the outs, right? In the same game. Both players played the very next day. No one had any consequence, right? And so when I, at the time, said, oh, Jason Dominguez should never play tomorrow. Never. They shouldn't even consider it. It wasn't to improve our chances to win the next day. That's not why I wanted to do it. I wanted to set the precedent. If you don't show up to do your job correctly, go home. You're not a part of the solution. Sorry. In order to make you a better player for this team, I have to hold you accountable. If I don't, I'm leaving it up to you to hold yourself accountable. Players won't do that. You need a manager that's above you who can tell you you need to do your job. So Jake, I'm going to tell you right now, I am so frustrated with this baseball team that I don't know if all of these good pickups that the Yankees made, 3 or 4 of them, I don't know if they're going to have a lick of an impact, because I'm not sure if Aaron Boone knows which strings to pull and which ones not to.
Yeah, today was really frustrating because it was the inverse of yesterday. And if you just took a little bit of this today and you plopped it on yesterday with the bullpen, they win. If you took a little bit of yesterday and you plopped it on today with the offense, they win. So those are the worst when you lose a 13-12 baseball game that you pretty much dominated throughout the entire time, and then you shot yourself in the foot. You lose that, and then the next day you come back to the yard and you get off to potentially a decent start. I mean, you have a good pitcher on the mound, your rookie's dealing, and you lose 2-0. You register 2 hits. The other team registers 4. It's not like the Marlins were great today. They were good enough to win. That's all that matters. And, I think really when it comes down to is, right now the Yankees are stuck in neutral. I mean, it's right on the thumbnail. 3 steps forward, 3 steps backward. Guess what? Neutral, right? So right now for the Yankees, this is when you start having to really look at Judge is coming back, let's say Tuesday, I believe, against the Texas. How important is it for Judge to come back? Because that's the thing that gets really confusing, gets frustrating, becomes that of a conundrum, Gary, because they didn't lose today's game because of pitching, but yesterday they did lose yesterday because of pitching. They lost today's game because of the lack of offense, and then yesterday they scored 12 runs. So it's not a simple fix. It's not like you put Judge in there and now all of a sudden, oh, well, yeah, the offense. Like, the offense just scored 12 runs. So really the issue is consistency. And what ultimately leads to consistency? Good habits, right? Routines. Putting yourself in the best position to succeed at all times. The most optimal results. Jazz Chisholm getting caught off the base in infield pop-up is one of the worst base running blunders I've ever seen. And that, to me, that is worse. Think about this. That's worse than Austin Wells and Jason Dominguez combined. And the reason I say that is because those guys, sometimes we're human. You forget how many outs there were, mental error, whatever. Jazz got thrown out on a pop-up in the infield. He shouldn't have even been off first base at all. At all. So those are the things, like, that hurts you. And it's another one of those things where people will say, oh, well, baseball, we were talking about the other day, you can pick up, your teammates. Yeah, but here's the thing. When you're in a game where you have 2 hits and you go 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position, you leave 3 on base, you're not getting guys in position at all. So any base runner is like gold. And the moment you have something like that, oh, you bet the entire clubhouse can feel the momentum shifting, and not in the good way. So today is just an example of really, yeah, they didn't have the hitting that they had yesterday, and they had the pitching that they didn't have, yesterday. But that, really stems from consistency issues. And that right there is what's holding this team back. It really can be as simple and stated as that. But I also wanted to hit on the Travis Chapman moment when he's going after Travis Chapman for Jazz Chisholm's blunder. I don't know what Travis Chapman is supposed to do. Jazz Chisholm shouldn't be off first. That is not rocket science. You know that in Babe Ruth. You might even know that in Little League. If there's a ball in the infield that's popped up, you shouldn't be off first base at all. Why are you leading at all?
Listen to what he's asking him to do, by the way.
He's
so yelling at him because he's asking him to tell Jazz to get back. you have to
It's
tell
just-
Jazz Chisholm to get back.
It's,
You either
it's
don't
awful.
have a smart enough baseball player on the field. There's only one of two things, guys. There's only one of two things. Either you don't have smart enough baseball players to know that a pop up to second base, even if the ball does drop, you're not making it to second no matter where you're standing.
Yeah.
So that's just common sense.
Well,
So you shouldn't be standing off the base, and if the defense decides, oh, we're just going to drop the ball on purpose and we're going to toss it and get the lead runner, then so be it. They do that.
yeah.
But for you to stand off the base and be like, well, I wanted to get far enough off just in case the ball did drop, then you're just not a smart baseball player. But also, how is it that you can make that mistake? You just stay in the game. And mind you, I see it obviously in a highly immature way in our comment section, somebody trying to essentially hold us accountable for Gleyber Torres. And I'm going to say exactly what we covered Gleyber Torres as, right? He's playing for the Detroit Tigers, went to an all-star game, right? And it, in a way, made it look like, oh, it wasn't him. It's not his issue with the fundamentals. It's us. Well, Jake, isn't that so interesting? Because that's exactly how we covered it. We said they are out here, they're scapegoating. Oh, you see Verdugo making poor mistakes on the base pass. You see Anthony Rizzo making mistakes. You just uncharacteristic. You have no idea why it's happening. Gleyber Torres was making those mistakes essentially for years. And the Yankees were like, yeah, it may be because of him. I think he's the common denominator. And then you go out the door and all the same players, whether they're smart or not, they're making mistakes for you, mental mistakes. You can't win 2-0 games by getting thrown out at first base on a pop-up to second. Can't happen. You're getting thrown out. Rojas is sending you. 2012, Usain Bolt wouldn't have scored there. He was out by 40 feet. Why are you sending him to home plate? There's no reason to do so. So this
How does
entire
he not
staff.
get chewed up? How does he not
I
get
don't
chewed
know.
up? He's been horrendous. All right, this is overdue. Luis Rojas is horrendous. He is horrendous. He has turned memes on the internet, sending Giancarlo Stanton, who is literally running in slow motion like it's one of those 90s baseball films where they just pan the camera. That is Giancarlo Stanton running because they've told him he can't run, right?
There
So
you
they
have it,
send him
Jake.
home.
Look at it.
What?
So Rob, thank you for jumping in the chat. I'm going to let you finish here, Jake. Rob
exactly
just
what you
confirmed it. Jazz Chisholm in his interview. Oh, I thought if he dropped the ball, I could get to second. You're a moron. You're stupid. You think that a ball dropping by the second baseman, you're going to beat the throw? Where do you think the ball's bouncing to? He's standing right next to second base. You're not making it.
No.
And so what are we sitting here talking about, Jake?
That's a baseball IQ error. That's concerning. But
please go on about Rojas because you're exactly right.
Rojas is the worst third base coach I've ever seen in my life. He's awful. He is absolutely terrible. I cannot stand him because the thing about Rojas is he'll hold guys and be conservative at the wrong times, and then he'll send Grisham on that Stanton liner. Dude, Stanton hits the ball as hard as anybody in the league, okay? It doesn't matter if Grisham was Usain Bolt. Stanton hit that so hard, so it went back to the left fielder at the same mile an hour that it came off the bat. And if the left fielder plays it cleanly and doesn't do what Caballero did yesterday, guess what? You're out. You are getting gunned out, and that is exactly what happened. And I will tell you, there absolutely has to be accountability when a third base coach sends a runner, because it's not the runner's fault. Grisham's, he's hustling. He's hauling ass down the line. It's up to you. You have to make a proper read, and you have to own it if you don't get it right. And that, to me, pissed me off the most. You're yelling at Travis Chapman. He's the only base coach that's good. Like, I don't have any issue with Travis Chapman. I have no issue with him whatsoever. But Luis Rojas, I have talked about on the show multiple times. And when you have a guy that is thrown out standing up, he's like, all right, I'm dead. You failed. And that, to me, people can say what they will. That could have cost him the game. That was one of the only 2 hits of the entire game, and you send him there. And look, I'm not saying that Jazz Chisholm's coming up next and he's going to make contact or whatever, but guess what Jazz Chisholm did the very next at bat in the second inning?
What do you do?
He walks. So he
Right.
walks.
You just never know because you didn't
and
give
then-
yourself an opportunity.
And then Ben Rice drives it to center, which probably would have been a home run in a few ballparks. But the point being is you get Ben Rice potentially with the bases loaded. Okay? I understand wanting to score runs, but essentially you're trying to force something. It's like, yeah, you're ever on the highway and you realize your turn's coming up. It'd be nice to make that turn. It's going to be a little inconvenient. Now we have to go the long way. But if it's not there, I don't care. This is not a movie. You are not turning the steering wheel, cutting 3 cars off, and trying to get off that turn. It's not feasible. You are going to die, right? And that is exactly what happened to Grisham. There's no play there. He can't score. And just saying, well, we're sending him because we need the run. We need to set the tone. No,
That's exactly why they sent him.
You actually sent the tone the other way. I'm convinced. That right there, it just right away, it nipped them. They weren't, I felt like, and I can understand if it's a bang play, I don't have an issue. As long as you understand the outs and everything, I don't have an issue sending a runner. But if you ever see, and this is my rule of thumb, it always has been, always will be. If you ever send a runner and they're outstanding up, you fucked up. It's that simple.
Yeah, and mind you, you mentioned that this is Trent Grisham, right?
Yes.
Trent Grisham this isn't some barn burner. This is a guy who he can move, but he's more or less a station-to-station guy. If he's not Dave Roberts, if he's at first base, we're not looking to him to get into scoring position. So he's not fleet of foot.
Yeah.
And you're going to send a player essentially putting no pressure on the defense whatsoever. He's out by 35 feet. In having said all of this, you mentioned yesterday, you said, well, we didn't get the pitching, but we scored a lot, right? We scored 12 runs. Should have been plenty to beat the Marlins. And that's technically true in a vacuum. But I would argue, Jake, is that if our pitching is great, it's more likely that we don't score, right? If we start scoring, it's more likely that our pitching doesn't show up to the yard. And I just think it really comes down to getting prepared to play and just sort of understanding how to read the room, the fundamentals. I see it in the comments. Sometimes when you're in a 2-1 game, in the 7th inning, you have to know, oh, it's this type of game. We have to be on it, right? We have to be on it. And then you hone in innings 7 through 9. You're like, all right, we need to be sharp here. But innings 1 through 6 in a high-scoring game, yeah, you sort of know mistakes can be made, but you need to be sharp towards the end of that game. The Yankees can also find themselves in a 1-0 game. We can project Cam Schlittler, no hitter going into the 7th. You just know we're going to find a way to make it low scoring because that's what we do. We just don't find ways to win games. Great teams do. If the offense doesn't show up, they say, okay, we need to run the bases smart. They're not in 2-0 games. We just named you 3 mistakes that we did on the base paths today. So you're not winning that game. So I just think in general, when the Yankees win a game, we're just going to get to this point. If the Yankees win a game, it's because they were always going to win that game absent of fundamentals. And you don't need to win every single game. The difference in margin, the margin of victory is not always on the fundamentals. Sometimes you'll win 6-1. You didn't need fundamentals that day. You could just out-hit somebody. But anytime the Yankees are tested and they have to execute, they'll fail. Every single time, and that is strictly coaching. It's not players. It's not Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm's not as dumb as we think he is. He's not. That's a ridiculous mistake. Let Jazz Chisholm play for Houston. See what he does. And I'm not talking about stats, Jake. I'm not talking about batting average. I'm not talking about homers, 30-30 pursuits. None of that crap. None of it. That's performance. Fundamentals. Put him in Houston, right? Put him on these teams. Put him in LA. Is he making these type of mistakes? Maybe he makes it once. Is he doing it again a couple weeks later? The answer is no. So very, very disappointing. Thank you guys for getting involved, obviously, in the chat. Apex says, Lauren, obviously my mom, was right about Jazz. She described him yesterday as lackadaisical, not paying attention. I think I described it to her as he's a little too cool for school. And when you make mistakes, it's very frustrating. So, yeah, Apex, glad you brought that up. Ronnie with the 5, also a member here at Yankees Unloaded. By the way, did we drop the membership link below? I'm not sure if we did, but...
We did not, but thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, and because I feel like that would be helpful. But Ronnie, thank you for the 5. Said today, the day I become bonded to the belief that the Yanks will not win a ship under Boone. So Ronnie's just coming to this conclusion now, which is perfectly fine. I mean, we don't all have to arrive at an opinion at the same time. But in which year did you feel like the Yankees displayed fundamentals better than another year? I would be hard-pressed to find which year that was under this manager. We just tend to be the dumb team. Doesn't it seem that way? I used to say, oh, it's personnel. It's Luke Voigt. It's Gary Sanchez. It's the group, Gleyber Torres. And then now, Jake, we bring in players, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, right? Jason Dominguez, they say he's one of the best base runners they've ever seen, and they forget outs. Austin Wells, great base runner. And then all of a sudden they go out there and make countless mistakes. Jake, what's your takeaway here? Because Ronnie doesn't seem to think we can win a championship under Boone. What is your opinion on this?
I think they can, but I really, my biggest thing is they got to get this consistency down, and they got new guys, and yeah, you already saw, the difference it makes being able to be out of your debut. You got your feet wet. Now let's move on. Jake Bird looked really good today, 2 punch outs. I feel like these guys are going to get the hang of things. Not everybody's going to come out and have, the Jazz Chisholm of 2024 or, Ryan McMahon, what he's done. Not everybody is going to join a team and do that. But then it's important because guess what? The Yankees are going to get a little bit of a breath of fresh air when Aaron Judge comes back. Now, that's also, keep in mind, that's going to keep Giancarlo Stanton on the bench. And right now, there's an argument Giancarlo Stanton is the hottest hitter on this team outside of Bellinger. So, it's not going to be easy. But look, the Yankees can do this. We've talked about the easier schedule down the stretch. But you have to, at some point, build a strong foundation of winning series like they did. They won their first 8 series of the year. They need to get back to that. I'm not saying they need to go on 3-game, 4-game, 5-game, 6-game, 7-game win streaks, but there's no excuse for them to have lost this series. They should have won this series. And now you move on, and you better win against Texas, and you better win against whoever you play, whether that's the Red Sox or whoever. You have put a lot of pressure on yourself. You can come back from this, but you need to start putting together those series wins. This is what we were talking about. Teams are not trying to win every game. They're trying to win every series. And right now, it doesn't even look like the Yankees care.
Yeah, you're talking about regular season baseball, though, which technically is the task at hand. Mm-hmm. Ronnie essentially is this is what I take away from this super. I think this is brilliant because when he mentions winning a championship, mm-hmm. you have to probably win the division is what you're looking at. Yeah. And then when you win your division, right, that's projecting through the end of the regular season. But you're not going to get through the postseason, right? 2 rounds of the postseason, then go into the World Series. And you're going to put this version, Rojas as your third base coach, Boone as your manager, right? Boone's going to be making all the decisions, who pitches, why, when, right? All this. Who's starting for this team? All of those decisions. Who plays in left field? Is it going to be Stanton? You just mentioned that conundrum that we have. Judge is going to be our DH. Who plays where? Is Stanton really going to play defense, right? All of these things are a part of it. But what Ronnie is getting at is in order to win a championship, not just for us, any team out there, if you have goals to win a championship, you have to be able to consistently pull the right strings, pitch the right player, coach the right player, put him in a proper situation. And that, I believe, is the Yankees' biggest weakness. The Yankees find a way to pull the least out of their talent. That's what I see. I think this Yankees team is far too talented for this. Honestly, if you threw this exact same Yankees team post-deadline to, AJ Hinch, to even a Dave Roberts, who obviously won a championship last year, mm-hmm. I believe they're a much better team. Much better.
They should be the best team in baseball. They're probably the most balanced. They fixed their bullpen, right? I mean, I understand it's not going to happen overnight, but they should be, at least regular season wise, because that's been the big thing, right? It's been winning in the postseason. But when we're talking regular season, There's no reason why they can't have the most wins right now. But I'll tell you this. To defend Boone, they were just in the World Series. If they go back, learning from what they struggled with last year, because obviously we have to see it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, they'll win that series. No, based on this team, no, they won't. But we don't know what they'll look like in October. My only thing is this. Boone was just there. And a lot of these guys were just there. And I think this team is way more balanced than last year's team. This team has not one gigantic crater in the lineup on the level of Alex Verdugo. Not one. And by the way, Rizzo was also a crater. So
yeah,
that's
he was playing with a concussion.
Yeah. So they had 2 craters in the lineup. The bullpen was, it had its moments, but it wasn't like, I think this bullpen will end up being much better. And I like this starting rotation more. I understand Garrett Cole's out, but I think that they have depth here. And I think we're about to see Luis Heel, really show what he can do tomorrow and kind of remind people, because it's been a long time since we've seen Luis Heel on the mound. And I think he's going to surprise people. I think he's going to be their number 3. I think he's going to pitch in the World Series if they get there. And I think he's going to step up, because guess what? He's been sitting on the sidelines. He's been watching these guys. And I'm telling you, he is ready. He is chomping at the bit to get involved and try and help this team go and win a World Series. And I think that's kind of how Judge is feeling as well, being off to the side a little bit, even if it's not that long. I think the Yankees are going to bounce back. My biggest thing is when it comes to can they win a World Series, there's no reason to assume they can't. Because if they get there, then anything's possible. And they were just in it.
I'm about to give you a reason.
And well, I get what you're saying, but I mean, I always bring up the whole, the Super Bowl, right? They'll never win a Super Bowl with this quarterback. I don't agree. That when you get there, right, you get to the World Series, anything can happen. Ohtani was injured, right? Going into that series, Freddie Freeman, I mean, you were telling me, you're like, he's not even healthy. Like, he's playing injured. And he had, like, the greatest World Series run.
Right, and that was less about performance. This is, again, like you mentioned, Ohtani didn't play well. Ohtani was hurt, right? Had the shoulder injury, unfortunately. We wanted to see everybody healthy. We didn't get that opportunity, but he didn't play his best in the World Series. Freddie Freeman obviously hit the walk-off home run, as clutch as they come, but he was ailing on a bad ankle, right? They had 2-3 guys healthy in their entire rotation, and yet they bring Buehler out the bullpen, right? So there was a lot of patchwork happening, and they still win, right? But when you mention, well, this Yankees team can win the World Series, that is technically true, right? But I'm going to stop you there, because just yesterday I brought something up. I said, let me name the teams who can. I'm not saying they're going to, or it could even be highly unlikely, but there's a possibility they win the World Series. I think Toronto is now creeping towards the idea that we actually could, in theory, go on a run and win a World Series. They're probably creeping into the conversation. I know their record is great. It's awesome. They're in first place. They deserve it. But they don't necessarily have the star talent you're really looking for. So, again, I'll say it's creeping on possible. I don't really think anybody else. I know Boston had a very underwhelming deadline. They're probably out of it, right? Dustin May, their biggest pickup. Probably not. Detroit. Would you say, I think this team could win the World Series? Of course, right? The Houston Astros think they're going to win the World Series. They actually just went and got Carlos Correa from the Twins, right? They normally don't make big money pickups like that, and they did so. Why? Because they think they're going to win the World Series. That's why they did it. The Seattle Mariners, Naylor, right? Suarez, Rentals, they're telling you, we think we can win the World Series. So all these teams, you can't count them out from winning a World Series. That's the boat the Yankees are in. And so that is the boat you need to get out of. And it just tells you whether it is your players aren't talented enough or your staff is not accountable enough or smart enough. Something has gone wrong when you're in the exact same boat as the Seattle Mariners. You are. You're in the exact same position as Seattle. Seattle currently sitting behind Houston 3.5 games. They're expecting, We've got a run. We definitely can go on a run here and catch Houston. They're not a great team. Pretty good, right? They're 13 games over 500. We could run them down technically. We go on a little 8-2 run. We could do that. What's the difference between the way Seattle feels about this postseason versus the way we do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They have starting pitching, right? To some degree. Obviously, they have a lot of it. They brought in bats. Their manager, they have to believe their manager is even better than ours. I would imagine their third base coach isn't as bad as Rojas. Do they have their manager coming out and chewing out their first base coach when one of their players is just standing off the base inexplicably? Probably not. So I would argue they probably have a better staff, a better rotation, a comparable offense. We're in the exact same boat as a lot of these teams with a shot. And that's not where the Yankees are supposed to be. It's a fireable offense, by the way. And I'll prove it here. This is the final thing I'll say.
If they don't make the playoffs, well, no, not even that. I already said if they don't make the World Series, I'm okay with firing Boone.
I'm okay with firing him regardless. You're sitting here talking about we have a shot, right? Because that's really what you're saying. You're not saying it's likely. Like we're likely to go through the AL. We haven't created that type of team. We just haven't built that type of team.
Apparently saying a team that was just in the World Series and arguably got better than they were last year, that's a wild-ass take. I don't subscribe to that. I don't get that. We've also been very open on this show about how we feel about the AL. It's not great. There's a lot of opportunity.
We're part of that not great, by the way.
Yeah, but exactly, though. Anybody can win any given time. I still feel good about this team. I mean, I don't feel good in the moment, right? I'm not happy that they just lost two games that they should have won. But I do feel good about this team. I still think they have a lot of balance. I think when Aaron Judge comes back, that is going to help. Just having him in the lineup, he is essentially the guy that everybody kind of looks up to. And if not, it's Cody Bellinger. And I think that having Heel back is going to be a little bit more, like I said, it's going to be underrated. People aren't going to talk about it nearly enough. So
I don't think people think we're not going to win because we're not balanced. I think that's where the disparity is. I think the majority of people, they probably think we're not as talented as we should be, right? We should have probably some bigger names, right? Our team should look a little bit more like the Dodgers, where you look up and say, oh, I recognize the 1 through 6. And those are somewhat of household names. That's sort of what a lot of Yankees fans are looking for. It's what any fan base wants to see. Mm-hmm. But I think more people in our comments think we can't win the World Series because we're not properly managed. Our assistant coaches aren't doing their job. Pitching coach is awesome. Right? It's not we're not going to sit here and point fingers at everybody. Certain people are part of the solution. Certain people are part of the problem. And when you've got guys making routine mental errors, Jake, we're asking them to go win a World Series when they're the dumbest baseball team in the league. They are. We play the dumbest baseball, and we're very talented. But it's not just talent that gives you a high output and gets you to the ultimate goal. You all have to be doing the right thing at the right time. And do I want to watch this team in a 2-2 game in a championship series? Are they going to win a series where back-to-back-to-back games are going to be played in that fashion? They're going to come through more times than not? No, they're not. It's simply not going to happen. And Patrick, again, I'm not telling you, Jake, that they cannot win the World Series, whereas other people are. But the reason our odds are as low as they are, in my opinion, is because of the ineptitude and the lack of accountability of our manager. And I've long been saying this. I don't say it every day, oh, Boone should be fired or this or that. But I can criticize the fact that there are clear situations for you to hold a player accountable and help this team get better, and he just refuses to do so. Patrick with the 2 says fundamentals. Yeah, they went to die today. So Patrick, thank you, of course. And by the way, guys, if you're not subscribed here, please make sure you do so. We are giving away a Yankees jersey of your choice. I don't know, what number is Boone?
17?
17 sounds right. Yeah, I'd imagine whoever wins this giveaway. There are people now messaging me on Twitter telling me what they're going to do if they win this jersey. So I haven't seen any 17, so we'll see. He is 17, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 17's on the money. David L., thank you for the 6, says Yanks in trouble, Boston back in and ahead, If the Yankees stumble against Texas, they could be outside of the wild card looking up. 400 baseball, not going to get it done. Now, guys, we shouldn't really worried about missing the wild card because if you miss the wild card, you're not even competitive. As a unit, not even competitive.
Yeah. No,
That least of our
they
concerns.
didn't deserve it. Then they just simply did not deserve. If they can't get in the wild card in 2025, where they've expanded, no, I'm not worried about that.
And Wolfgang Almeida with the 2 says, what will it take for a change in leadership? I think I'm going to answer it for you guys. Joe Girardi was fired losing in the championship series, okay? I think if the Yankees lose before the championship series, like they don't enter into a championship series this year, I think Aaron Boone will be fired.
Could you argue also, because Brian Cashman would have a hand in it, could you argue also Brian Cashman kind of, right now he feels good about Boone. There's kind of maybe there's a feeling like, oh, we're going to do it. Maybe deep down he feels like they're actually going to win the World Series, right?
Sure.
And he just went ultra aggressive with 7 guys at the deadline, right? You normally don't see that. I would argue that Cashman's sitting there like, I did everything that you literally needed me to do. And if they don't get to the World Series, forget the championship, if they don't get to the World Series, I could see it.
Yeah, because in a way, it helps. It almost invalidates his whole deadline. Because if you go out there and let's just say you imagine you miss a wild card and your GM says, I just brought in all this talent and you couldn't do anything with it. It makes it look like I brought in guys that suck. So in a way, okay, well, it was his fault. It wasn't mine. I'm not the problem. It's Boone or it's Gleyber Torres or it's Rizzo. It's them. It's our trainers. It's not me. It's those guys.
So
and Scrawny says, I'm not Boone's lawyer.
I can't confirm, but Scrawny is saying that, yeah, he did talk to Jazz. I didn't see it.
I couldn't care less if he talked to Jazz Chisholm. I don't care if he talked to Jazz Chisholm. What I care is, did he hold him accountable? The answer is no. He should have been out of the baseball game. If he was talking to Jazz Chisholm, by all means. And I'll tell you right now, I brought up the point about Bobby Cox, and he's coaching. You're talking about Andrew Jones, one of the best players of all time. Fly ball it to center field, it drops. He didn't wait to talk to him. He just pulled him right off the field. He did that to hold him accountable, and it helped him down the road. So very disappointing.
Yeah, and Kendall, appreciate the super chat here. If Cash and Boone aren't held accountable, why would Rojas or Jazz be? Organizational malpractice funded by Hal. Yeah, I mean, you'll always know my take on this. Just the idea of having your own self-imposed cap in a sport that doesn't even have a salary cap is just utterly insane.
Well, we're talking about Boone, by the way, because I understand why it's a topic of conversation, right? We made some Boone head plays out there in the field, right? Mainly on the base pass. And we're essentially saying, what happens to Boone if we don't go to here? If we don't win this? If we don't win the World Series? What happens to Boone? There are like 3 other people just as important as him in this organization, and none of us have talked about Brian Cashman, the person who told us, oh, no, this is a World Series team. Jake, you called it more balanced. I didn't think nearly as high about this team. I called it an 88-win team. They're going to win 88 games at best.
Well, no, now they're balanced. I hated their bullpen, 3 days ago?
Right. So they called this before the deadline, right? Before the deadline. This is a World Series winning team. It's exactly what they said. It's a quote. That's what you had to say about this team before the deadline. This team is going to go win the World Series. We think this team's great. You do? Because how did you trade for 7 people if the team was complete? There's Slim. Welcome back, Slim. I'm glad we found you. Slim Lewis with the 2 says Jazz would be amazing on the Savannah Bananas. Perhaps.
Jazz needs to take a beat. I actually think he needs a day. I do. So it would be the perfect time. Hold him accountable. Bench him. He needs a day. Hasn't looked the same since the home run derby. And you didn't even win the home run derby. So, yeah. And I don't see 70% Jazz anymore. I see he's swinging 100%, trying to hit home runs. I don't know. I haven't loved what I've seen from Jazz Chisholm since the All-Star break.
It's fair to say Assassinator 980, thank you for the 5, says problem with the Yankees team is they don't do the small things right, and it cost us today in the World Series with the Dodgers. So Jake definitely would agree with the concept that that series with the Dodgers was closer, obviously, than what meets the eye. We lose in a 5-game series. In hindsight, when you say, oh, they lost in 5, that's a gentleman's sweep. In hindsight, it doesn't look that close. But if you look at the fashion of how we lost, we're up big time, and we just completely blow the game crap down our leg. If the fundamentals were there, to this Super Chat's point, we probably win the game, right? If we're just doing the basics. But part of your job as a team is if you can't do the basics, you're not as good as the other team. That's actually why we play the games. The Dodgers just played more fundamental baseball. They didn't play great baseball, but they were more fundamental than us. And so we lose. I think it's as simple as that. So, yeah, that's part of what I was getting at. I don't think this team just can't win the World Series because their left fielder sucks so bad or their right fielder's not good enough. It's not any of that. My thing, Jake, is that I just don't think we play smart enough in order to go all the way. I just think we're waiting on something bad to happen based on how we play.
I mean, they did that last year, though. You know what I mean?
They did.
So if they could get to the World Series last year with the defense that was way worse, in my opinion, then I think they can get to the World Series this year. And then
I think the field is better this year, by the way. Like Cleveland and Kansas City, who we played, I think it would be much more difficult for us.
It's better, but I mean, I still think this is a better team than last year. And look, I mean, it's frustrating to try and defend this team because they'll show you on one hand they can score 12, on another they lose that game. They'll show you they're capable of, dominant pitching, dominant bullpen here and there, and then they lose the game because they don't have offense. It's like, it is a really frustrating team. That said, it is August. We just started August. It's not October, and I feel like the team is just going to be different, at that point. So maybe it's just me kind of buying into the talent, whereas I feel like the cream rises to the top here. When you look at, say, like the Blue Jays don't have the talent the Yankees do. And so I think that is going to come back to haunt them, especially when you get to kind of the tougher part of their schedule, whereas the Yankees have the easier part of their schedule. And obviously, Miami was supposed to be part of that. They're, of course, playing really hot baseball right now. No excuses. They should still win, but you get the point. So, yeah, I just think it's kind of just going to work out. Now, does it work out in a 28th World Championship? That remains to be seen. But I'm trying to keep myself on maintained a little bit. I'm not trying to
seem like you're on the fence because this team technically has the talent to do it. No one's really arguing. I mean, mind you, everyone has their opinion. Certainly you can say, oh, well, there's 3 or 4 teams. I would argue we're probably like the 4th or 5th most talented team in baseball. That's just my take on it. And if we were properly managed and we were doing the right thing, playing the right players, holding players accountable, I think this exact same group under AJ Hinch, AJ Hinch is probably in first place to probably 66 and 46. And we're saying, all right, it's a tight race. Toronto probably will fall back. We'll make sure we win this division. We bought at the deadline to make sure we do it. That's probably the season I think we're having, to be honest with you. But my thing is that everyone kind of understands. Just yesterday, I named 9 teams. I think I named 9 that can win the World Series. So they're all just kind of waiting around for October to see where the chips fall. And then we're just going to see in hindsight how it went. But there's not anything they're showing us on the field to push confidence. They haven't put together a 3-week stretch where you can say, oh, yeah, that's the team right there. We hope they time it in October. They're not even turning the switch on and off. This is bad baseball. It just is. And so David L. with the 2 says, so you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah, I would say Jake and I agree. This Yankees team has a chance. However, Aaron Boone has to be significantly better. He has to be better. He doesn't hit, doesn't pitch, but to some point, he's got to hold these players accountable and get the most out of them. If you can't do that, you're not going to run into Kansas City and Cleveland every year. You're going to run into a Houston, right? You're going to run into a Detroit, someone that's going to push you. And when that team pushes you and you don't show up to play, you're going to lose.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, look, people in the comment section are probably not too happy that I'm defending them or whatever, or being delusional. But the reality is I'm not going to get too high or too low here. They just made a deadline, huge deadline acquisitions. They address the biggest need, and now we wait. And are they fully healthy? No, the best player in the world is actually on the sideline right now, Aaron Judge. And we're now getting a chance tomorrow to see their reigning rookie of the year, Louis Seal, on the mound. So I feel like you have to wait a little bit. Like, obviously you want to see results, and they did just win 3 straight. And one thing I'll say is they seem committed to changing up, instead of playing station to station baseball, as I brought up, the run game. Even only 2 hits today, not a lot of guys on base, and they still steal a base with Trent Grisham today. So there's some good that has come from this. Ben Rice looked good at catching, right? They made the uncharacteristic moves in getting rid of DJ LeMahieu, which I disagreed with at the time, but then getting rid of Stroman yesterday and letting the rookie stay in the rotation. Loved it. So I just feel like we need time to really assess what this team is, because I'm not saying it's fair that it's at this point. It's not, right? They're 60 and 51. They should have more wins. It is what it is. But there has to be a balance. It's August, which is, in my opinion, way too early to say whether or not they're going to win the World Series, make the playoffs, all of that. But it's also August that it's far enough where you need to start seeing something to feel good about something. And so that is my thing. I'm trying to see both sides. I understand the frustrations. Trust me, watching today's game and yesterday's game, and then, doing a show on it, you guys have been great. But Gary and I are like, oh, wow, can't wait to talk about 2 hits today, right?
Yeah, I mean, so when you're talking about, though, that you feel like, well, this team's they're not far enough along, but you're also saying that we are somewhat getting close to it. Where I'll disagree is that when I watch a baseball team, and we're talking about, you're sitting there in May, right? You're sitting there in late March, all the way to August. And that window of time, you never in any 3-week stretch were like, oh, there's the team. That's the team right there. They played smart baseball. They ran the bases. Really, the only time we were a really good baseball team was March and April. March and to the point of mid-April. That tiny stretch, you're like, oh, there's the Yankees. They're going to get off hot, right? Paul Goldschmidt's hitting 400. Aaron Judge is hitting 450, right? All this is happening, and you're like, oh, championship team. This is great. After you get to the middle of March, we've been bad. We've essentially been a 500 baseball team the entire year, and I just don't know if this team lacks talent enough for me to believe that it's not Aaron Boone or it's not this staff. So, Scotty Boy 26, thank you for becoming a Yankees Unloaded member. Welcome aboard. I assume that happened because we dropped the link in there. So, heck yeah.
Yes,
thank you for doing that, Jake, of course. And James with the 10 says, Boone should be embarrassed by the repeated errors, but he's not. Keep saying errors can't happen, but they do. Huge leadership problem. Attitude, not talent, is the problem. So I would assume James, by the way, I think he's probably on the same page that I'm on, is that this team, kind of the way you covered it, Jake, this team is balanced. That's talent related. That's a talent conversation that you're having right there. But my conversation is more so about coaching. Can you win a Super Bowl without a Super Bowl coach? Can you have a bad coach? Now, in hindsight, right, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, right, with the Eagles, and then not too long after, he's dismissed, right? They don't think suddenly he's a good coach. So that's the question. Can you win in this sport?
Won a Super Bowl at quarterback, so you don't necessarily have to have the best at either. So,
right. It's just been, is it been 6 seasons or 7? I think this might be year 7 with Aaron Boone.
Well, yeah, so it's 7 because, he was 2018 was his first year. By the way, I do want to give him somewhat of a pass here. April, they were good. They were also really good in May. And it was at the end of May, that Dodgers series, which then you started to really see them kind of, even after the Dodgers series, they win the Cleveland series.
Because we swept Kansas City, and then it went off the rails.
And then the Boston series, and then the Angels series, losing in 11. That's really when that started to dwindle, and then it looked like they were coming out of it a little bit, and then the Toronto series and losing 2 to the Mets didn't help. So yeah, I would say that the Yankees more often than not, good baseball team, even if it feels like they haven't, it's more recency bias. But this is a team that doesn't have consistency right now. And there's a sport where these teams, either it is trash or treasure. And I'm going to bring up college basketball because we see all the time there are teams, and they'll talk about, they're so balanced. They got a rim protector. They got volume 3-point shooting. They got perimeter defense. They got a slasher. They got a floor general, right? They got a great coach, whatever. They have everything. But what do they say? Yeah, they're a 10 seed because they just never were able to get consistent this year. They go 19-14 or whatever. Or they have to be in the playing game. Like UConn with Kemba Walker. Do you remember that year? I do remember. They run the Big East tournament. They weren't even going to make the They were not going to be in the NCAA tournament. They had to run right through the Big East, and then they go into the tournament and they win every game after that, and they win the title. And I'm just saying, with this team, they're a lot like that. I'm not saying they're UConn, but I'm saying we don't know what they are yet. And I know, I wish we did. It's August. I get it. We don't. So they're going to have to improve. Definitely going to have to improve the mental aspect of this game. Okay, they're going to have to stop making these errors. They're going to have to play smarter baseball. And I do think, soon we'll start to see some improvement. Again, we're starting to see some different things. Like, I absolutely love that they are stealing bases again.
Why do you think it'll improve, by the way?
Because they're stealing bases again. The fact that they went back to that tells me that they're actually assessing the situations. They're actually assessing, we keep losing close games. What if we didn't play station-to-station baseball? What if we brought Jazz Chisholm runner in scoring position now with Austin Wells at the plate or whatever, right? And then, what if we just stole third? Or what if we had Jason Dominguez, who's blazing fast, tag up from second to third? They're playing similar baseball in that aspect to Toronto. It's the things that really you don't have to do extra. You just have to do your job. And those are the things right now that they're struggling with. And the good thing is those are the things that you can improve on. Those are the things that can be turned around. Those are the things where you get into a rut and it feels like nothing is working. But if you go back to playing your brand of baseball, which, keep in mind, we were talking about this being one of the better defensive teams in the league. I think they were top 7 at the beginning of the year. These errors and everything, Gary, this bad baseball hasn't been all year. It kind of came out of the blue and it stuck around for a bit, right? The stink. Yeah,
it's still been here for longer than it wasn't. And that's really what we're getting at. You can't play bad baseball more than you play good, and then say, we played good at the beginning. Are now.
I think that they can see. It'd be one thing if you go into the season and you're like, wow, we just have stupid baseball players. These guys don't know what they're doing. Like Cody Bellinger, nope, none of them, right? It's not like that. It's we're seeing uncharacteristic stuff. Hell, even Volpe. Say what you will about Anthony Volpe, I had always had my criticisms. I thought he was an overrated glove, and I thought that he had the worst arm you've ever seen at shortstop. But one thing for sure that I didn't expect is Anthony Volpe to be as bad as he's been in the field this year with the glove. We have not seen that. So these are things that are just kind of uncharacteristic based on the certain sample size we've been given and shown of these players and who they are. So I think they can turn this around. Will they? That remains to be seen. But I'm not going to go one way super high and say they're going to be World Series champions, or go super low and say they're not making the playoffs. And when I constantly see that they should have sold or they're cooked, I'm like, well, think about this. They're cooked, but they're 60-51. This is not a great AL. They're only 4.5 back from Toronto, right? And there's still so much baseball left to be played. I don't know when, but I'm telling you, at some point, the Yankees are going to go on a run. That's what I do know. At some point, the Yankees are going to go on a run again. They do this all the time. We talk about the Boone swoon, the June whatever. They do this all the time. We just started August. Let's see how things play out. Doesn't give an excuse. Not giving one. I'm pissed that they lost the last 2 games, and I'm not defending them. I'm not a homer, right? I've thrown Cashman under the bus plenty of times. I've thrown Boone under the bus. I've thrown Volpe. I've thrown all these players, right? But I'm just saying I'm not giving up on the season on August 2nd when they're 4.5 out of the AL East and they're 9 games above 500. I understand. I get the frustrations. I get it. But there comes a point where it's like, all right, it's a little overzealous here saying, oh, the Yankees, they have no chance. They're cooked. No, that's ridiculous. You might believe that the way it comes out in the end is they're going to miss the playoffs. But if you actually are thinking to yourself that they are cooked and this team is not making the playoffs and you've already written them off, then this might be your first year watching a full-on season of baseball, because that's just not how it works.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was really getting at, the conclusion. The conclusion is that if you're in the same ballpark and the same premise as Boston, Toronto, Detroit, Houston, Seattle, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Chicago Cubs, the Dodgers, the Padres, every single one of those teams says, we have a shot in hell. Every single one of those teams I just told you has a shot in hell. Mm-hmm. They all have that. Every single one of them. There's not one team in there who has no chance, literally, to win. I really don't think that's where I'm at, that we have the same chance to win a World Series this year as the Giants. No. But how high is that chance? I don't think it's an acceptable percentage. That's really my conclusion there, Jake. We certainly could go on some March Madness run, and the whole year they played stupid baseball. Obviously, there was like a month and a half there where you're like, oh, this could be the team. And then Paul Goldschmidt was no longer hitting 400. Judge was no longer hitting 440, right? And then all of a sudden, Cruz goes down, Weaver goes down, and you say, all right, they're back, but this isn't the team. Like, this is more times than not, the team has not been good. And then all of a sudden, could it literally, like from a literal perspective, change overnight? Yeah. Starting tomorrow, they can win this game and people are like, so what? We lost the series to Miami anyway. That's horrible. Then they win the next 3 games in a row, and then we're saying, hold on a second. Are the Yankees doing something? But where we're at, we're in the same boat as all these teams. Milwaukee can't go on a run. The Cubs can't go on a run. Of course they can. All of these teams can go on runs. So that's something where I've been left disappointed. I don't think the Yankees are a consistent enough baseball team, and I think that comes down to coaching. It's obviously been my biggest problem. And Johnny,
I agree. I mean, that's what I was saying. They don't have consistency, but they do have talent. And I'm sorry, but when you see a game like they just dropped 12 runs, yes, I'm absolutely furious they lost that game. But this is an offense that just scored 12 runs without Aaron Judge. So, like, I mean, that has to count for something. They scored 12 runs against Atlanta. You know, they have done this before. They have those games. They're capable.
Well, it does count. It does count for something. It counts for a loss. That's the thing. Is your job
Atlanta,
is to.
But I get what you're saying.
If you score, well, we lost yesterday. You said 12 runs. So if we score 12 runs and we lose, it doesn't count for anything. It tells you that you have guys in right field and just not fielding the baseball. You have guys not knowing the outs. You have guys where you bring in 4 additions at the deadline and they all surrender multiple runs.
I agree.
So it's like for the Yankees at this point, they've got a shot. I think everyone knows, yeah, there's a small percentage chance that the Yankees can go on a run and we'll say, all right, I guess we'll eat crow. But we're going on 16 years of not winning a World Series. We've always had a shot for the most part. A shot? We've always had that. And so that's not really what I'm looking for. It's just not good enough, Jake, for me. Obviously, you're on the fence. You're not defending what this team's doing. You think it's pathetic, but you're leaving the door cracked for what's possible. Everyone, I think, in this room knows that the door is cracked, but you got to have the room to be able to step through that door, to kick it open.
I'm just over the negativity. Like, look, if you don't like the Yankees or, you know, you're just so annoyed by them, then don't watch them. Like, just don't.
Well, I
But,
did
like,
tell you, Jake, I said yesterday, if you
constantly-
don't like the negativity, then win. If you don't win,
I
then
get-
negativity is going to follow
I get that.
you.
Well, the negativity is always there, whether they win or not. They won 3 straight, and people are like, it's just the Rays. That's just how it is. And I understand
that.
No, we didn't, but that's how, there's a lot out there. And just, this is what I'll say, okay? It's August 2nd, right? They're still 9 games above 500. People are acting like they're underwater right now. They're acting like they lost Judge for the year. They're acting like they lost Bellinger for the year. They're acting like they don't have a rotation. They don't have a bullpen. They didn't just address all of the needs. These same people that were saying, oh, they should sell. They go out and they do what they do at the deadline. It's like, oh, I actually like what they did. And now you haven't given it more than 2 days and you're back on, this team's cooked. It's over. It's all over. Like, that's my thing. The whole wishy-washy thing. I get it. Fans, I get it. But after a while, it just kind of gets old. Let's see how it plays out. 50 games left or what have you, right? We're going to find out what this team is. And I would just rather, take it day by day like we do. I don't want to get overzealous in one direction or the other because we're doing a daily podcast. And I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, Aaron Boone, fire him now, or I'm not watching the Yankees. I'm not going to say fire Cashman. I'm not going to say that these guys suck. I'm not going to ignore the fact they scored 12 runs yesterday and say the offense is terrible. They never help us out. And I'm not going to ignore the fact that the bullpen pitched well today, because when they do well, and this has been our show, we give credit where credit's due.
Every time.
We always do. And when guys are poor at what they're doing, that's when we criticize. But this idea that it's a blanket statement, they're cooked, it's over, they'll never win, just the nonstop negativity, I personally am not going to stoop and subscribe to that. I'm just not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I completely get it. Nobody wants to be sitting in negativity. I would probably say the most frustrated person in this is probably Aaron Boone. He doesn't want to sit there and take questions about losing. He doesn't want to answer questions about holding players accountable. He doesn't want to talk about if he's going to get an extension. None of these things. And like I said yesterday, Jake, I get it. We run a daily podcast. There's a ton of negativity. There's also a ton of ups, a ton of them. In hindsight, if the Yankees play a season where they actually do what they're supposed to do, they have a monster winter, players are healthy, you say, okay, well, the Yankees possibly, let's just say 100 games, 100 wins, 100 episodes for the year is going to be in positivity. If we don't like the negativity, and I understand why you don't like it, I get it.
Yeah.
But the Yankees have won 4 games in their last 10. They're in third place behind a really not a good Boston Red Sox team. They're not very good. And so I get it. People don't want to live in the negativity, or I'll speak, of course, for you because you're the one talking. I get it. But I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. When you win the World Series, you get deep in a postseason run, you win regular season baseball games, people shut up. People shut up immediately. Ryan McMahon, he was brought to this team. People were furious. I was furious. You didn't like it. Nobody liked this move except for Brian Cashman. Now, we can find a couple of stragglers in our comments who are like, I always knew he'd be good at this price, right? We could have found that. The majority were very unhappy. Ryan McMahon, since the pickup's been very good. And guess what you didn't see in our comment section? Any negativity about Ryan McMahon. Why? Because performance just breeds silence. No one's going to talk about it.
I agree with that. And I have no issue because we're talking, we're texting all that. What they just did the last 2 games they should be held accountable. It's ridiculous that they lost those games. I'm pissed. And yes, I'm negative about those 2 games. But why are we already deciding what they are in October or what they're not in October, that they didn't make the playoffs based on 2 games?
Sure, we definitely will find out in
October.
October.
That is literally all I'm saying is that, look, say what you will. Like, obviously, you could say whatever you want, but it just gets kind of old where you're constantly like, this team's terrible. Oh, I love what they did. I hate what they did. Oh, the nice win. I hate them. Like, look, the Yankees are frustrating. They are, and they're not a fun watch when they're losing. Like, it's other teams. Like, okay, yeah, it was an entertaining game. It sucked. We lost, whatever. Yankees lose these type of games more than I feel like any other team. 2-0, 2 hits. You're sitting there decaying in your recliner or whatever, right? I'm totally aware of that. But at the same time, this team has also shown you that they can come back. They can face adversity. They came back in that game and won that game in extras against Tampa without Judge, right?
That game was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome, right? Awesome. Mm-hmm. And it showed that this team is capable digging down deep and winning, right? And I don't care that it was the Rays. I don't give a hoot. They've never played the Rays well. They never do. They started off that series losing a game they shouldn't have lost, 4-2. Then they came back and won 3 straight, something they hadn't done in quite a while. You have to go back to June. The point I'm making here is that this is a team that has some wow moments, has some absolutely abysmal moments. And that, to me, is not a team that we can already assume they are this or they're this. So I am going to wait until they prove it, and that's that. As far as today was inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. And Aaron Boone, I do feel like, again, I like some things he does. I don't like some things he does. But I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, fire Aaron Boone, get rid of, Brian Cashman, all this. I want to see how this plays out. And by the way, firing Aaron Boone right now would not help a lick. We have seen in limited opportunities what I'm blanking on the bench coach's name. He hasn't done anything when he's come in. He is exactly like Boone. You're not going to get like a crazy creative.
No, we don't have Coach Carter is not our assistant.
No,
he's not down there. So I completely agree with you. And Paul, thank you for the 5. I believe that's 5 pounds. Thank you, Paul. It says trying to stay positive. There you go, Jake. Coming from the UK. Welcome in, Paul. Thank you for being here for the Blue Jays and Red Sox Fenway series in September. Think they're going to be huge. They're going to be huge series. So yeah, they will be. These series are going to be massive.
Yeah.
And you're going to find out, I'd probably say that is around the time where Jake's going to tell you what he thinks this team is. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we can draw something definitive. We're going to be set in stone probably at the end of those series of where we're going to end up at the end of the regular season. That matters. So again, Paul, thank you. And again, guys, if you're not currently subscribers, please make sure you do when we give away a jersey at 10,000. We cannot wait to do that. We're flying. Should be there in the next 30 days. And I could not wait to read this one. I had to throw it up on the screen. Isaac, thank you. Isaac Taylor with the 10 says, take Jez out of the game for what? I'll answer that real quick here. To hold him accountable. To know that if I make a mistake and I'm not paying attention, I know for a fact Aaron Boone's going to hold me accountable. I have to come ready to play. That's one. Where was the energy when Wells forgot how many outs there were, or when Volpe made errors than any other shortstop in the league? Game. Isaac, did you watch our podcast? I'm being completely serious. Can anybody in our chat help Isaac here? And mind you, Isaac, thank you again for supporting our channel. We're glad you're here.
Yeah,
but we want to set the record straight. If we're going to talk about where was this energy, we should know where that energy was. And I'll tell you right now, Yankees Unloaded, this podcast. Hey, Jake, do you remember what I said about Austin Wells in that moment? Do you remember what I said? Actually, let's add to that. What we should do with Jason Dominguez. What did I say?
Jason Dominguez should be benched immediately.
Pulled off the field. Isn't that what I said?
Go say the line. Come sit down next to coach.
Thank you. I totally blank out on my own verbiage at this point.
Dude, it's your line, man. It's your line.
I said, matter of fact, in that moment, Isaac, just to clarify and prove this, I used an example. I said Bobby Cox and the Andrew Jones situation. In the middle of the inning, he said, hey, come sit down next to me. Go to the clubhouse. Go fire up the showers. That's actually exactly what I said. So when you want to keep the same energy, let's do that. I said pull every single one of these guys. And it's not because I think they can't help the team because they're just bad baseball players. No. I wanted them pulled because it sets the precedent that if I don't pay attention, I'm not locked in at all. I'm just making boneheaded mistakes. I'm going to pay for that with my job. That matters. And so, yeah, Isaac, I appreciate actually you being unaware that you're agreeing with me in every way possible. So glad you're on my side of the ship here.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where if you don't, and I think a lot of people don't understand this because it's like, we'll see, you'll see it every now and then in college football, for instance, a guy gets suspended for a half and you're like, why are they doing that? That's just going to, the team is just going to be down and you're hurting the team. And it's like, no, I need to nip this in the bud now because this is going to hurt the team down the road if I don't address it now.
Yes.
And that's basically what you're saying is I will take the short-term pain of taking Jason Dominguez out of my lineup, Austin Wells, although I don't know how painful that would be right now. But I will take the short-term pain of taking Jazz Chisholm out as long as, like, knowing that this is going to have a lasting impact. It's going to set the tone in the clubhouse. It basically keeps everybody on the straight and narrow. And more importantly, it holds that player accountable so they're learning a lesson. You're more likely, think about this, if you don't like what Jazz Chisholm's doing, you take him out of the game, don't you think next time he's in a similar position, he's going to think a little bit more? Because now it's like, oh, well, the last time that happened, I got benched. So I don't want that to happen again.
You have to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's all. I agree with you completely on that end because, like I've always said, like a lot of people don't understand it. They look at it just face value. Oh, you're just taking the better player off the field. You're weakening your team to win the game. But also keep this in mind. If you feel like you have a good enough team and everybody's an MLB pro and everything, Aaron Boone, if he's taking Jason Dominguez off the field and say putting Austin Slater, or you're taking Jazz Chisholm and you're putting, Jose Caballero, you have to assume those guys being on your 26 can do the job just as well. So I don't look at it like that.
Yeah, it's long-term gain. You're going to take the lump. If Jazz Chisholm being in the game, he makes multiple mistakes, mental errors. That's what we're talking about here. And just completely screws up an inning. Multiple times. And then later in the game hits a game-winning home run. You know what people say? Aren't you glad we didn't take him out of the game? No, I'm not. Why is that? Because 2 months later, the chances that Jazz is going to learn from said mistakes that he made, multiple, plural, is low. The chances are low. And then when you get in October, you're just hoping that player for some reason held himself accountable. That's what you're hoping for. The whole point of your manager is to hold people accountable. And so, yeah, you seem to get it, Jake. Hopefully people do understand what we're talking about, of course, here. And Brian with the 10, also a member here at Yankees Unloaded. So Brian, thank you. Says it's cringe seeing Boone yell at his coach. He's allowed his team to be dumb for years. This is like yelling at your kid for coming home late when you let them come home late for years. And this is the same concept, really, as people who get upset when their kids whine. Well, guess what? When people have whiny kids, what do you actually end up finding out about those parents by hanging out with them for days? You end up finding out that they actually reward whining. Anytime they whine, their kid whines, they hand them the iPad. They hand them the candy, right? They're whining about, I want Panda Express. They get Panda Express because they whine for it. So Aaron Boone can't sit up here post-game and say, it is unacceptable. That cannot happen. And then the very next day, those same players that you just told us did something unacceptable. It is acceptable because they're in the lineup tomorrow. So I don't know. I think Brian completely gets this. I really do. I think the majority of our audience really understands the concept. Do you want to take this?
Yeah, so Melvin, appreciate the super chat here. How do you bench Jazz but won't bench Volpe? I think I was calling for Volpe to get benched for George Lombard Jr. for the majority of the first part of the season. I mean, I kind of get what you're saying. Like if you're saying right now, I guess, maybe, how do you bench Jazz, but you won't bench Volpe? Well, Volpe's contributing right now. Jazz has been kind of disappointing at the plate. But more importantly, you're not benching Jazz for a long time. You're benching him for a game. Just something to get the point across. That's what I would do anyway.
You're just making a point. That's all you're doing. Hey, make the point. Jazz Chisholm, he's our best option at second base. I don't care who you guys put over there. There's no better option than Jazz Chisholm. Anthony Volpe, as poor as he's played defensively and for the majority of the season offensively, he's been really good of late, and you just brought that up, Jake. Anthony Volpe, you could have said, hey, this might be worth it sending him down. But if Anthony Volpe gets picked off twice in a game, he forgets the outs, right? Doesn't know which base to throw the ball to, just making mental mistake after mental mistake, we'd want him off the field as well, just to send the point. So, Melvin, again, thank you for the 5. It's greatly appreciated. And Brian says, yes, Jake, we hate you. Stop being delusional. LOL.
Appreciate
Love
you,
that.
Brian.
Yeah, and Steve M, thank you for
Steve.
becoming a Yankees Unloaded member. really glad we finally figured out we can drop the link. I mean,
We got a Hall of Fame super chat coming up. You'll know why I said that.
Oh, really? I can't wait.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Brian again says to steal bases, you have to get on base. Yeah, we had 2 knocks today. I think we probably walked twice.
And they
I'm
still
guessing.
stole a base. So there you go. They're improving in that area. Now let's see if they can move it onto the defensive. This is a Hall of Fame super chat. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me brace myself here.
Oh,
so
wait.
Alex
No,
with
it's
the
not
20.
this one. It's the next one.
Sorry, Alex. Yours is terrible. I'm kidding.
No, it's
Alex.
literally
Thank
the
you for the
next
20.
Alex one. Because Alex
Oh,
just hit
okay.
us
This
with
is
a bunch.
fair.
Yeah.
So Alex says, I hate watching this team. Jazz should have been benched just like Wells should have been. So there you have it. Alex, just straight across the board. Volpe,
Yeah.
2-hop. We are who the Dodgers said we are until we prove otherwise. I think
That's
Jake
fair.
agrees with that. I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
We are exactly who the Dodgers said we are. We are a talented, boneheaded team. Just put the ball in play, they will ruin it themselves. That's exactly who we are. And it could change. Everyone who makes mistakes in life can change it around. They can fix their problems. It's the same for all of us, not just in sports. But you've got to show some evidence that it's going to change. And that's really, Jake, what you've been saying all along. They haven't shown us a ton of evidence, but when we get down there to October, we're going to draw a conclusion about you one way or the other. So once it's all said and done, we are going to turn these mics on and we're going to tell you about yourself. So Alex, thank you for the super. I can't wait to get to your next. Alex just recently became a Yankees Unloaded member. So Alex, thank you for supporting this channel. As always, you've been great. And yeah, I believe he mentioned that he is a 49ers fan, if I remember correctly in the comments.
Stock
Jake's
down
a big
on Alex
fan
a
of the
little
49ers.
Bit. No, appreciate you, Alex. This one's awesome. This is,
Go ahead.
like I said,
Go ahead and read it.
Hall of Fame, and now you see why. Now you see why.
You can take it. Go ahead.
Also, finally got the membership thing figured out. By the way, pretty sure they make you join on desktop. Pretty sure, yes, because Apple would take their cut if purchased on the app. He's right. He's right. Apple takes, I think, 30%. Look,
Yeah, they don't make enough money at Apple, so it makes a lot of sense that they need
I'm
it.
a big Apple fan. I spent $8,000 on a MacBook. I know it was custom, it wasn't standard. So there was a reason for it. And I have an iPhone and I have a lot of Apple products, but they are greedy SOBs when it comes to apps. They get 30% cut of anything you buy on their app store, and they're getting sued because of it, actually. So yeah. That's
They
what
probably won't back pay us, though. I bet you that.
No, they will not be back paying us anytime soon.
But Alex, thank you again for the 20. Greatly appreciate it. Like
Appreciate
you said,
you,
we don't
Alex.
normally see orange super, so that is awesome. And Kath D, thank you for becoming a Yankees Unloaded member. And we're all caught up on the super, so really glad we were able to do that. So yeah, Anthony, we're not sure how he managed to spend $8,000, but mainly memory, just different gadgets.
Not something I would do again, and here's why. I found out while I like the idea of having a native 8 terabyte SSD and just absolutely maxing the thing out, you could just have you could spend way less. You just get one of those enclosures, and you just get an actual SSD, like an internal that you would put in a PC. And you just put it in the enclosure, and it works just as well.
Yeah, you end up finding out spending $8,000. You could have just went and bought a
I
used
bought that a
Toyota
while
Camry.
ago.
Instead, you bought an Apple computer.
Well, I don't need a used Toyota Camry. I got a Toyota Corolla. That was new. So
yeah. So Jake doesn't spend his money
Boom.
wisely, guys. So just in case you want to know where your supers are going, it's going to his MacBook. So
that was from what, 2021? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where his Rams money went. So we really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for investing, of course, in our channel. And, of course, welcome into all of our new members. We're happy to have you guys. The Yankees have a lot of work to do. This team is easily
I knew Christopher was
Corolla
a man
family.
of culture.
Yeah, there's a lot of Corollas out there. This team has
Great
so
car.
much to prove. There are a lot of people, by the way, I saw this a lot, that don't believe anything will happen to Boone, provided that we don't prove ourselves. You're waiting for them to just prove it one way or the other. Prove you're as bad as I'm watching, or prove that you're something different, something better, right? And I'll tell you right now, if you go out in October and you lose in the division series, how are we supposed to go into the winter and look at Brian Cashman and be like, oh yeah, he's going to be big game hunting? No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not big game hunting Boone and, oh, we're going to show up. We're going to go into spring training. Hopefully we're going to meet a lot of our audience here at spring training. And you're supposed to be selling us that what's different about 2026 as opposed to 2025. They're going to have a hard time selling that if it goes awry in October.
Yeah. No, I agree. And shout out to Steve M, a buzzer beater super chat. So we love those. How does this all play and stupidity continue with the most respected man in baseball, Aaron Judge, in the dugout? So I don't know if people are going to like what I'm going to say, and I love Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is not rah-rah, okay? He's not somebody that is going to get in your face and yell at you for doing something, okay? He's somebody to be like, yeah, man, you probably shouldn't do that. He's not going to be somebody like, just like in your face energy. Right. I don't know if they have a guy like that, to be honest with you, aside from maybe Carlos Rodon. And he just seems like he's taken a back seat when it came to that, kind of fiery attitude, which I'm okay with. But yeah, I don't think they have a guy like that. And I guess that brings up an interesting point here. Garrett, are they missing? And I'm not understand where I'm coming from. I know you'll know where I'm coming from.
I'm already shaking my head, yes.
Are they missing like a Josh Donaldson, like fiery guy?
Yep.
And obviously not his bat.
Not literally Josh Donaldson.
Yeah.
The point of why they brought him here. They brought Josh Donaldson on the team not to really be 37-year-old Josh Donaldson. Really what they were hoping for and what they were paying for. We paid $25 million a year. Same money we pay Cody Bellinger, by the way. Neither here nor there. They brought him in here to be good enough, right? Good defensively, but good enough offensively so that he's a solution to the team somewhat on the field. But as long as that's happening, Steve brings up, how does this happen, with Aaron Judge in your dugout? You mentioned he leads by example. Well, if you got a guy at first base that doesn't know the outs or doesn't know that he should probably just be standing at first base on a pop-up, is he really led by example? Is this working for this group? And I'll tell you guys, at some point or another, you do need somebody to step up to you and say, that's garbage. That right there is just garbage, completely unacceptable. And mind you, not to the media, to them.
No, we shouldn't hear about it at all. That's actually being a bad teammate because now, as Derek Jeter said, if I said something in the clubhouse, I didn't want that getting reported. Now that's a distraction. You're not trying to be a distraction.
Derek Jeter never said hardly a damn thing in the locker room. I can tell you guys because I was standing in there. Now, mind you, I wasn't there for all the conversations, but Derek Jeter never came up to my dad's locker and said, hey, Gary, I think we could do this better. He never would that have ever happened. Never. And A-Rod, who was at first, right, he's dropping pop-ups. He's not playing well. He's not performing in October. You guys think Derek Jeter came up and chewed out A-Rod? Is that what you guys think was happening? It wasn't. He had a very similar brand of leadership. I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to have over 200 hits in October. I'm going to show the most important part of the year is October by how I play. The fundamentals, I'm going to display them, and then you can follow my lead. But there were also people who had an impact. Joe Torre, right? There are players on this team. Jason Giambi, another guy who would go out and say, hey, man, this could be better. Very nice dude. But he will say, hey, that's not good enough behind closed doors. So, yeah, I agree. I liked the premise of why is this happening with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is not the guy. And, Jordan, you're absolutely right. Your dad probably would have knocked him out. You've got a point there.
Oh, man. And Brian, we appreciate you. What's worse, spending $8K on a laptop? Should probably just say I spent like $5K on an 8 terabyte SSD at this point, right? Because it wasn't even for the laptop at that point. It's like the SSDs are so expensive. But what's worse, spending $8K on a laptop or spending $18 million on Stroman? But seriously, how can we think this team can win when the same thing happens? I go back to what we saw earlier in the year. And I think they are going to be a better team than they were earlier in the year when they were winning because they've improved their bullpen. Keep in mind, and this is never really talked about, their bullpen was ravaged by injury. Ravaged. Okay? Everybody except for Devin Williams got hurt. Every single one. And so all of a sudden, when I went on record saying this is a top 3 bullpen in baseball, because it was at the time, now we're saying this is the worst bullpen in baseball, or at least not we, but I definitely was saying that. So the injuries are out the well, they still have the injuries, but now you've added 4 guys, or you've added 3 guys, or whatever, right? You've added 3 new arms to this bullpen.
We have plenty.
You have 4 closers. Like, that to me, if you look back on what were we talking about when it came to why the Yankees were losing the games that they were losing when they were winning. Like during the time where they were winning tons of games and they would lose games, why were they losing? It would be because of Devin Williams, right? We kept saying, oh, he couldn't close games. And then slowly but surely, you started to notice bullpen's getting banged up. Now all of a sudden they're not winning because of the bullpen. And they're not winning because, oh, Devin Williams is actually pitching well, but they don't have guys in the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning that you trust.
Right.
And now they have those guys. And I understand it doesn't feel like that after last night, but immediately they improved today. They were much better today, and that's what I'm talking about. So say what you will, excuses, whatever. I say it's August 2nd. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually answer this though about the $18 million on Stroman. Let me say this about Marcus Stroman. I actually didn't even think it was that bad of a signing, and I'm gonna tell you why. Here's why I guess technically it was a bad signing. Because the Yankees have a budget. That's why. Technically speaking, the Yankees, there's a ton of value to having a player in there who can just give you 5 at the back end of your rotation. You can kind of flex them in and out. Right? You can work on some young talent. If they need to be sent down, you throw Stroman back out there. The reason people care so much about $18 million is because the Yankees run a tight ship financially. That's why. If the Yankees would just say, hey, we spent $290 last year, the following year, Kyle Tucker's available, we'll spend $325 because it's Kyle Tucker. If it was a fluid budget, nobody would care about Marcus Stroman's $18 million. I could not care less. Marcus Stroman literally, and I don't know if you guys saw the tweet, posted of him on a private jet. By all means, he had a really good career. I don't care if the Yankees spent $18 million on this player. I don't care. Why it bothers people is because of that budget. Because $18 million is being used on him rather than something else. You guys really shouldn't even be upset about spending money on Marcus Stroman. You guys should be upset at why they said, okay, well, where the team's at, we're just going to leave it as is. Well, do you think the team's good enough? We're going to tell them it's good enough. Well, why is that? Well, because we've spent our budget. That's the answer. So the Yankees, anytime they tell you this is a World Series team, they're essentially just telling you what you need to hear because they're simply out of budget. They're going to do the exact same thing this offseason, and we'll be the judge if it's enough. Is it enough? Do I look at left field, center field, right field, and love what I'm looking at? It's not going to be based on budget there. And so Apex says A-Rod can try being manager, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Jake?
I would take A-Rod as manager. I think he's incredibly smart. I think his baseball knowledge has always been underrated. But he's had all sorts of experiences, and he's been in every position. Like, he was on the Rangers, he was the guy, and then he goes to the Yankees, and he's not the guy, right? He takes a back seat. He would be able to relate to all these players and what they're going through because he's been through different stages in his career. He was the veteran that they pushed out the door to bring in Aaron Judge, right? So right. I feel like, yeah, he would provide a boost. And, you know, you listen to him on Fox and you're like, this dude knows what he's talking about. Like he definitely, and more so, I don't think, like if you, and obviously the Yankees probably would never hire A-Rod, because what you've said, you know, because he sued them or whatever. Yeah. But let's just say they do. That would be them committing to a guy that still has that living, breathing, old school baseball mentality that I think is starting to be obsolete in the league because of how much analytics have taken over. And I'll always say this. I say it with any sport. or anything in general, analytics, AI, things like that, they're used as tools. They're effective. They're optimal, right? If you use them the right way, they can help you. They can increase productivity. They can make you better in the long run. But when you start only using AI or you start only using analytics, well, guess what you're doing? You are essentially distorting the image of baseball in this sense. You're distorting the image of whatever you're doing. And that's ultimately, and we see it all the time with the whole WRC plus. Congrats.
Oh.
You took a home run and now you've distorted what a home run is. Oh, well, that wouldn't have been a home run at another ballpark. I don't care about the weighted. If you weight all of these, what you're doing is telling me that my reality isn't my reality. That's what you're saying. You're saying, oh, well, if you hit a bunch of home runs at Yankee Stadium, you're getting penalized because they weren't far enough. And so they wouldn't have been home runs at other stadiums. I hate that. Just call it like it is. There's going to be times, they played the Rockies. I was complaining the entire series about playing in Colorado. Felt like any time they hit what should have been a home run wasn't a home run. But guess what? That's baseball. It's actually the beauty of it. It's one of the only things you can say. Guess what in the NBA? There's all these different arenas. Do they have different dimensions of the court? No. Football fields? No. Hockey rinks? No. So baseball is the beauty where, it's one of those sports where you're actually playing, it's the only sport, where you're playing a different dimension of the field every time you go out there if you're playing at a different, venue. So I love that aspect, and I'm not trying to distort that and turn it into something it's not. And so, yeah, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about A-Rod, though. He wouldn't be all about analytics. I'm honestly, the next hire, if Boone is fired, it can't be another analytic MIT dude. I'm sorry. It just can't.
Well, if they do fire him, at the very least, they're saying...
Oh, yeah, golf.
Because, mind you, I've heard this a lot, okay? And I want to, in a way, try and debunk it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We've heard, well, if they fire Aaron Boone, let's just say hypothetically, it's going to be the same group hiring. So wouldn't they just bring in some new school dude to just do the same thing? And at first I was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, right? You have a poor owner. He's going to make the same hire. He's going to just do the same thing. But I'm going to say this about it. If Aaron Boone's fired, what is that really telling you? That tells you that if people believe that Boone's not making these decisions, instead it's analytics, well, if you're firing Boone, you're also saying that our system doesn't work. Something about our system's not working. Because if you think the system's fine and the manager's not really pulling the strings, it's a bunch of Carls sitting in the background in suits, well, then you would never fire the guy in the first place. You don't see a problem. The first thing that you need to do to solve something is notice you've got a problem. So I think if Boone ever were to be fired, it'd be the Yankees saying, we think we went too far in the direction of analytics. We need to go step towards the middle. I don't think you can just go strictly old school and just start lighting the candles and ride to work on horseback. But the reality is that analytics are meant to help you. It's not meant to decide which way you move and which way you don't. That's not how this goes. You need to find people who know how to apply it with common sense.
They do it in football
AJ Hinch
now.
does it. The Houston Astros, when AJ Hinch was managing that team, you have a team that you're like, oh, analytically driven. But then you'd watch AJ Hinch and he's like, yeah, I left that player out on the field in Lance McCullers Jr. for 126 pitches. Analytics said not to, but I saw he had it going, right? The human element. And so all types of ways, and then long story short, they end up winning. Dave Roberts, same kind of deal. More of an old school approach, but they have analytics involved. The Yankees need to get there. Analytics involved, not the main thing. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're going to make their bed in October, and we're just going to cover it. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said before, I'm going to be bald at the end of this year. Let's tee up, though, the game tomorrow. Luis Heel, welcome back. Happy to see him healthy. And I think we're facing Edward Cabrera, if I'm not mistaken.
Painful, but yes, they are. I got the Yankees winning this game. I think Heel's going to come out strong. He's not going to pitch a ton, right? Because they're going to have him on a pitch count. But I do think the bullpen is going to pick him up, and I think the Yankees score a little bit more than they did today, which is great because they scored nothing today. So I'm going to say the Yankees bounce back, maybe even a Jazz Chisholm home run. He's got to get something because he hasn't looked good in front of his old team. And Agustin Ramirez has had quite the series against his former team. He didn't even get a chance to wear the pinstripes. So, yeah, I think tomorrow they do win. They bounce back. They move to Texas, and they'll get Judge back on Tuesday. They'll start to, we'll see if they turn things around. But, yeah, I do think they win tomorrow.
And what do we want them to drop in the comments? How about this? How about let us know what you think. What was our title for this episode? Just exactly.
What can Aaron Boone do to ignite this Yankees team?
Okay, so I guess there are going to be people who say he could just exit stage left. Drop in the comment section the answer to that question. What do you think Aaron Boone can do to get this Yankees team from being a highly talented, one of the most dumb baseball teams you've ever watched? Yeah, there you have it. Itchy nuts with the quit. So, oh boy. I should have known. I should have known nobody would take it serious. But anyway, let us know what you think Boone can do to solve this problem. If you think he's capable of solving it, please drop that in the comments after the video, of course. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you're part of the giveaway at 10,000 subscribers. We are inching close to 9K as we speak. We project to be there probably by late August. So we really appreciate all of you guys stopping in. Drop in the comments again. And, of course, like this video.